I was about 7 years old when this incident had taken place. We lived in a standard two-bedroom apartment on the east side of St. Paul in Minnesota. And by we, I meant my mom, dad, my older brother, and myself. There was nothing in particular about this apartment complex that made it creepy or anything. That was until one night that completely changed how I felt about that place forever. I shared a bedroom with my older brother. We were only a year apart, so we got along fairly well. If it was one thing that we had in common, it was having a fear of the dark. I don't know why, but the dark just made things feel much more creepier than it really was. But back to the point. I have a vague memory of my brother and I alternating nights as to who would flip off the lights before making a run back to the bed, since our beds were a bit further from the light switch itself. There was just this rush of fear and laughter whenever we did this. And whenever it was in the middle of the night and one of us needed to use the bathroom, we usually had each other's backs. One would wake the other one up. We would make our way down the hall, where one would flip on the hallway light switch, and then the other one would go use the bathroom, while the other one stood outside and waited. This was the case on most nights, but one night, I really needed to go pee, very badly. I tried waking up my older brother to go with me, but for some reason he was dead asleep, and he just grunted at me. After getting a bit irritated by his behavior, I thought to myself, hey, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. Maybe I'll just go by myself and be brave this time. Plus, I really had to go at this point. So I made the decision to go by myself. I got out of my bed, reached for a light switch in the bedroom. Immediately, my older brother squinted and grunted and pulled the covers over his head. But I carried on not caring. The hallway to the bathroom wasn't terribly far from our bedroom, but it was pitch black, so it definitely made it seem farther than it really was. In my head, I instantly had a dilemma. The hallway's light switch was a bit further down past the bathroom itself. I was debating making the extra effort to just walk the extra few feet to turn on that light switch to furthermore illuminate my way, so I wouldn't be so afraid of the dark. But at this point, I couldn't hold it in any more longer, and so I just decided to make a run for the bathroom. When I got there, I flipped on the lights, left the door open, and with a sigh of relief, I started to go. Now, this next part, let me explain. You guys remember that movie, The Sixth Sense? The part where he runs to the bathroom to go pee as well? Well, this was very much alike. As described in that film, about how you start feeling the chills and the hairs on the back of your neck and arms start rising up right at the time you encounter a paranormal entity. This is the damn truth. To my left was the hallway, and there it was. A man, or what I thought was a man, had just walked past me, slowly, in the dark hallway. I just froze in place, with my little mind trying to process all of this. This man wasn't an ordinary looking man. He had on an Asian navy blue soldier uniform from the earlier days. In his left hand, he held an axe. In his right hand, he held his head. Yes, I said his head. This man's head was not sitting upon his shoulders like it should have been. I could see clearly his neck and the wound area where his head was supposedly decapitated. I couldn't scream for the life of me. I don't know why, but it was like fear took over. I then, snapping back into reality, flushed the toilet, flipped the lights in the bathroom off, and just made a run for my life back to my bedroom. This was the fastest I've ever ran as a child. I slammed my door behind me, turned off the lights, jumped into bed, and immediately I pulled the covers over my head, trying to process what all had just happened. I eventually fell asleep, but when the morning came, I got up and I walked over to my parents' bedroom. and I told him what happened last night. Like most parents, they told me it was just my imagination. However, whether or not they believe me or not, I never went to the bathroom alone again in the middle of the night after that incident. Now, the story doesn't end there. Fast forward a few years later, I am now about 12 years old. My dad had become a shaman, and at this time, the whole experience was very new to us and very different for our family as well. For those of you who don't know what a shaman is, I'll give you a brief description in my own words. I would describe a shaman as some type of a witch doctor. A shaman is a human who uses their body as a host and allows the good spirits, in most cases your very own ancestors, of the underworld to temporarily use their physical bodies to perform certain rituals. During this process, the words that come out of the shaman's mouth during the ritual chants aren't his or her own anymore. Most of the rituals that are performed by a shaman includes retrieving a person's lost spirit from the underworld that had somehow gotten lost. In our Hmong culture, we strongly believe that when a person has become very ill out of the blue and for no particular reason, that it is because they have been frightened by some entity that has caused them to jump in fear, resulting in their spirit parting ways from their physical bodies and into the grasp of the encountered entity. And it is a shaman's duty to go on this quest to go and find the lost spirit and bring them back home as a way of helping the ill person return to good health. But on other occasions, shamans can also hold sessions that are very much alike to that of fortune tellers, such as predicting the future and things of that nature. But on one specific evening, my dad had just finished a session answering questions and predicting the future for a family relative. My mom then wanted to ask a few questions herself. I was there, and all I could remember was how weird it was hearing my mom call my dad a different name and even spoke to him as if he were another person. But I realized the situation, and she was asking the spirit inside my dad all of these questions. One question in particular caught my ear though. My mom asked, "Back at our old apartment, when my younger son had claimed that he had seen a ghost in the middle of the night, did this really take place, or was this just his imagination?" The spirit inside my dad said, "Don't be scared, dear. Do not fear, dear. But yes, this really did occur, and that spirit was me. I had been helping to watch over your family for a few years now, and that night in particular, I was just walking the premises to guard your home. So have no fear, dear. Everything is okay. I saw that my grandson needed to use the bathroom that night, and therefore I stayed nearby to keep him safe. So have no fear." Now, as creepy as this sounds, I should also tell you that the spirit inside my dad belonged to my great-great-grandfather. We had found this information out the moment my father became a shaman and had started speaking words of a different tongue, words that we have never even heard my dad speak before. This was because those words belonged to my great-great-grandfather. And as my grandfather continued speaking to my mother, he explained how he had died in his past lifetime and what his purpose was now. He told us that during a war between the Chinese and the Hmong people all those years back, he was captured by some Chinese soldiers, and when he was questioned, he refused to answer any questions. This caused the soldiers to push him down to his knees, and he was beheaded right then and there. This explains why I saw him the way that I did that night at our old apartment, carrying his head with his right hand. As scared as I was hearing all of this, I also had a sense of relief come over me, and I finally found some closure. I mean, it was kind of cool knowing that I had my great great grandfather watching over me and warding off other spirits in our home to keep us safe. However, till this day, I am now 30 years old. I can never just pee with the door wide open, nor do I look into the dark hallway before closing the door behind me now. It's become this thing that I just remember every single time I need to use the bathroom at odd hours of the night. Some people still look at me funny whenever I tell them this story, as if they don't believe me. But tell me this, if I was lying, tell me how a 7-year-old was able to describe in such full details of the man he saw that night. This had been my only real-life paranormal encounter, and I hope I never have to experience it again.